welcome to Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. This week, we're talking about Palestine, in particular, the virtues of Masjid Al-Aqsa. As we all know, there are many challenges facing the Palestinians, but Masjid Al-Aqsa itself holds a very important place to every single one of us. And we're going to be discussing with my guest what is so important about it, and really how can we benefit and maximize our rewards in not just maybe going to Masjid Al-Aqsa and praying there, but also helping it. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. This week we're looking at Palestine, in particular the virtues of Masjid Al-Aqsa. With me in the studio is Yasrab Shah, who is the Director for Fundraising for Muslim Hands. Jazakumullah khair for joining us. Let's start off from the start. Virtues of Al-Aqsa. What are its virtues?
Subhanallah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. It's a big question, actually. And I've asked many a scholar that very question, and it's the responses are amazing and very humbling, actually. It's safe to say that the question you've asked is also in line with how companions radiallahu anhum would ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So meaning they were aware that this was a significant place, that Masjid Al-Aqsa was a significant place in Islamic history and arguably actually in human history. I would just point out, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked by Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiallahu anhu about what was the first masjid on planet Earth. The Prophet ﷺ, he made mention of the Haram Sharif in Makkah al-Mukarramah, and I think we're all aware of the fact that the Kaaba on planet Earth is the first masjid. But then he asked a pertinent question. He said, well, what was the second masjid after that? So alhamdulillah, we're glad he asked that question. The Prophet ﷺ said Bayt al-Maqdis, which is another name for Masjid Al-Aqsa. And then he said, Kam kana baynahuma, like what was the interspace time between the two masajid being constructed? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Arba'una sana. It was 40 years. So meaning Masjid Al-Aqsa is the second oldest masjid on planet Earth, and that's confirmed in hadith. The other thing we would point out, which I think we're all quite well aware of, or maybe our generations after us maybe aren't so much aware, is the fact that Masjid Al-Aqsa, of course, was also our first qibla, our first prayer direction. And so what we learn from our scholars when it comes to the seerah, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, is that when he lived in Makkah al-Mukarramah, the qibla was, of course, Masjid Al-Aqsa. And if you imagine this is Makkah, and where Masjid Al-Aqsa is to the north, in Jerusalem, in Quds al-Sharif, what he would do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that he would put the Kaaba in front of him and pray towards Masjid Al-Aqsa. So he actually combined the two qiblas even before the change.
I don't think many people know about this, actually.
I remember when one of my teachers mentioned this, and I thought, subhanAllah, that's how beautiful that is.
Yeah,
how profound and beautiful that is, and the love and the respect that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for both masajid and both our qiblas. The issue comes where you have Makkah here, and when the Prophet ﷺ is given permission to migrate to Medina Munawwara, which is north, he can't do that in Medina. He has to face to the north and then have the Kaaba at his back. But what I love about the incident of the change in the Qibla, many of us will be aware of a masjid called Masjid Qiblatain when we go for Hajj and Umrah, the masjid of the two Qiblas, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he mentions in the Quran, he changed the Qibla to a Qibla tardaha, to a prayer direction that the Prophet ﷺ loved, meaning the Kaaba Sharifa itself. And what I always found very profound about that is that the ayah of Quran says that we have seen you constantly looking into the heavens for that change. But he never said it. But what's beautiful is the relationship between then Allah and his beloved, the Prophet Muhammad that his beloved didn't even need to say anything, and the Qibla was changed.
He was hearing it,
The other thing which what I've studied and learned from many a scholar is a profound connection between us and Masjid Al-Aqsa on a daily basis. And you may say, well, but the Qibla's changed, how it can't be so significant. What's amazing is when we find in our writings, and Muslim scholars have spoken about this for centuries, is that they speak about a'mal salihah. You know, when we do good deeds, that those good deeds are presented on Mondays and Thursdays. We have ahadith that allude to that. But in the commentary of those ahadith, it makes mention that angels will take those good deeds via Masjid Al-Aqsa and then ascend them into the heavens. The proof that they use for that is that on the night journey of the Prophet ﷺ on the 27th of Rajab, he ﷺ could have ascended directly from Makkah al-Mukarramah to the heavens, but he didn't. Allah didn't choose for that to happen. Instead, he went to various stops along the way, including Medina Munawwara, including Mount Sinai, including even the grave of Musa ﷺ, and then entered into the holy city of Al-Quds, of Jerusalem itself. From there, the Prophet ﷺ will lead the other 124,000 prophets in prayer in the masjid we're speaking about. So it already holds a unique position in that respect. But on top of that, as we know, the ascension into the heavens took place at the Dome of the Rock, the Qubbat al-Sakhra, which is in the heart of the sacred sanctuary. So scholars have argued that our good deeds, which are presented to Allah on Mondays and Thursdays, and they say even on a daily count, after this is a hadith about this, Fajr and Asr times, that the angels change guard and the deeds are taken up to the heavens to eventually to Allah's throne if they're accepted. They go via Masjid al-Aqsa, so meaning on a daily basis, whether we realize it or not, Masjid al-Aqsa is playing a very significant role for us every day. And what I would also fast forward into our future, the Day of Judgment itself will be conducted at the plains of Masjid al-Aqsa al-Mubarak. And we have that reference from a hadith that Maymuna bin Sa'ad radiallahu anha asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that give us a fatwa, give us a legal injunction about Bayt al-Maqdis, about Masjid al-Aqsa. He said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's Ard al-Mahshar wa Manshar, it's the land of gathering and the land of resurrection. So you know we know this, that for 50,000 years we will stand at the plains at the Day of Judgment. What maybe some of us weren't aware of is that the strongest ahadith allude to the fact it's actually at Masjid al-Aqsa. I know that for example, when I went to Arafat for the first time on Hajj, many people said Arafat is the place, but actually the strongest ahadith allude to the fact, no, it's actually Masjid al-Aqsa.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you say Palestine and you think of Masjid al-Aqsa, it definitely has a very strong place in the hearts of the Muslims and everything else. And obviously, the political situation is one that brings a lot of sorrow, a lot of heartache to Muslims. In terms of, like, you know, the situation of the Palestinians, of Masjid al-Aqsa itself, I mean, what is it like at the moment?
It's a difficult situation, but what I find hope and message of mercy is from our own tradition, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a prophet of mercy. And what we find, as an ayah of Quran says, "Lan tajida fi sunnatillahi tabdila," you will never find in the way that Allah does something, in Allah's sunnah, a change. So what is observed over human history, so we were talking about the history of Masjid al-Aqsa, is that Masjid al-Aqsa, for want of a word, has been plagued by war and disasters, even natural disasters, earthquakes. Masjid al-Aqsa itself has, maybe we're not aware of this, has been destroyed by earthquakes as well as at human hands during wars and conflicts. And that sunnah continues till this day. So for example, when Maymuna bin Sa'ad radiallahu anha, who later on asked the question that what about if somebody can't get to Masjid al-Aqsa to pray in it? Because the Prophet there's different riwayas about the reward of praying in Masjid al-Aqsa, from 250 times more reward than anywhere else to 500 to 1,000 to even beyond that. So she said that, and I want to encourage, the first thing I would like to say is the Prophet he said, "U'tuhu fasallu fihi." That is a very strong message we need people to be aware of. He commanded us, go to it and pray in it. Now, alhamdulillah, many years ago, I visited Masjid al-Aqsa and prayed there, and it left a mark on me. What I noticed, see, the hadith goes on, it's very prophetic. It says, what about if you can't go there? And in one riwayah, one of the narrations, it says, "Wal ard dhat al-harb." And at that time, the land had war in it. So this is at the time of the Prophet. And has it changed? It hasn't. That sunnah of Allah, of that Masjid al-Aqsa, being an incredibly special place on planet Earth, is surrounded in trials and tribulations. That continues till today. The good news, I would say, for our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are no doubt suffering a great deal under the current circumstances. I've spoken to many of our Muslim partners who work in Jerusalem, in Gaza and other parts of Palestine. The good news for them is the Prophet ﷺ actually mentioned them. That I love, because I wish he had mentioned the Muslims of Britain. Imagine if we had a hadith about that. And I often remind myself and them about this, because they talk about the trials and tribulations on a daily basis that they face in the blessed land of Palestine. What I remind them is that there's a beautiful hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على حق قاهرين لعدوهم. That the hadith says that there will continue to be a band, a group of my ummah who will continue to manifest the truth, and they will quell all their enemies. لا يضرهم من خلفهم أو خالفهم. They will not be harmed in the slightest by those who betray them or turn their backs on them. And this will be their state until the day of judgment. The companions excited to hear who is this elite group amongst the ummah. They said, Aynahum ya Rasulullah, where are these to be found? Look at the answer he gave. He said, Hum bi Bayt al-Maqdis wa aknaf Bayt al-Maqdis. You will find them at Masjid al-Aqsa and its surrounding areas. That's the land of Palestine. That is Palestine.
You actually feel that, and you actually see that every day. Whenever you hear news about Palestine, I mean, you see the Palestinians. You get the impression that they are blessed people, even though they're, you see pictures of families living in a open living room, as it were, no walls, no roof, or
under
anything.
Poverty,
having their
struggling.
So
what I would say that what I learned from my teachers, and it's very much fundamental to our faith. Take a hadith in the Sunan of Ibn Majah. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Idha ahabba Allahu qawman ibtalahum." That's the answer. And in the way we do it at Muslim Hands, that's the actual answer. When we see these, when Allah loves a people, He puts them to test.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to just briefly pause you there, because there's one important thing you haven't done is tell us, if you can't go there, what should you do? And you will, but we're going to take a short break and carry the conversation. Please do join us again after the break, where we will carry on the conversation. See you in a bit, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. So just before the break, Brother Yasrab, you were mentioning that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged people, even commanded people to go and pray there.
Absolutely.
What if people can't make it?
So here's my take on it. I have consulted ulama on this point as well. Before I answer that, let me put an interesting tangent on it. Many of us may have visited Masjid Quba. Masjid Quba is the first masjid that the Prophet ﷺ built before even Masjid al-Nabawi in Medina Munawwara. So Quba is just a few kilometers from that. Now, when you go there, you'll see on the gateway, it says, As-salah fi Masjid Quba ka umrah. That if you pray any prayer in Masjid Quba, it's as if you've performed umrah. When you think about that, you think, when you think that's like 5 minutes of ibadah, worship, and doing umrah, as minimum 4 or 5 hours, but also flying there. And But there's also a beautiful context to this hadith, which is that at that time when the hadith was said, but it continues till today, the Muslims of Medina Munawwara were barred from doing umrah or hajj. Right. The Meccans didn't allow it. So then how should we view that hadith? We view it under the lens of mercy and great generosity from Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they shouldn't feel that they're deprived of the blessings of Umrah. If they pray in Masjid Quba, it's the equivalent of doing Umrah. In the same way, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about Masjid Al-Aqsa Mubarak, that as we said, that he said, go to it and pray in it. For indeed, prayer in it is like 1,000 prayers anywhere other than the two other harams in Makkah and Medina. Maymuna bin Sa'ad radiallahu anha, the freed slave of the Prophet ﷺ, she then said, but what about somebody, it's very prophetic now, what about somebody can't go there for whatever reason? And like we said earlier, that's a land which has been riddled with all sorts of trials and tribulations. So it's not the easiest place to go, and it continued to not to be the easiest place to go. Here comes the message of hope. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَلْيُهْدِي زَيْتًا يُسْرَجُ فِيهِ, or فِي قَنَادِلِهِ. There's different riwayas of how he said it. He said, ﷺ, he said, let that person who can't go there gift oil to be burnt in its lamps. And then he says, ﷺ, that the one who does that, kana kaman salla fihi, is like the one who prayed in it. It's amazing. And when at Muslim Hands we embarked on doing renovation work at Masjid Al-Aqsa Mubarak, I'll be very honest with you, brother Azad, that this was over maybe about 11 years ago. I've been at Muslim Hands just over 13 years. And I remember the brother, I still can't remember even like it was yesterday. I remember he left a project proposal on my desk in Arabic, and he said, look, see if you can find some donors for that. And it said, in Arabic, he was saying that this is for Masjid Al-Aqsa Mubarak. I said, okay, that's great. Which Masjid Al-Aqsa? Because you know and I know, there's a lot of, if you Google search Al-Aqsa Mosque, you'll see many even in the UK. Exactly. Alhamdulillah, for the barakah and the blessings of it. And he said, the one in Jerusalem, I said, nah, come on, nobody. And at that time, it was £95,000 for a project to do a brand new public announcement system there, paving stones and toilet facilities. This is not real. It can't be, it's impossible. And I remember this is when I first came across this hadith. But if you can't go there, send oil for its lamps, because then Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned in his writings that that hadith can be extended by not literally just oil for its lamps, but any sort of support for Masjid Al-Aqsa and its people. So we took that to heart, and alhamdulillah, when we launched that first appeal, we had an astounding response, and alhamdulillah, we did the work, and it's now we're a decade on. Our partners there, the Zakat al-Quds Committee, which is the only charity working under the Jordanian Awqaf, who are responsible for collecting and distributing zakat in Masjid Al-Aqsa Mubarak. Their office is literally next to Masjid Al-Aqsa. Very jealous of that point, but alhamdulillah, it's great. May Allah preserve them and protect them, inshallah. They're doing amazing work. So earlier this year, they came and said, look, we've got permission to do the internal lighting of the Grand Prayer Hall of Masjid Al-Aqsa, the Qibli Masjid, which is the prayer hall which is used heavily within the sacred sanctuary. Would you brothers like to do this as an appeal? And I'm not going to hide this. For me, it's 2.5 million pound project. It's by far our most ambitious project in working with Masjid Al-Aqsa. We've done external lighting, PA systems, wudu areas, paving stones. But as a one-off project, it's by far our most ambitious one. Relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost, we said we'll do it. We'll split it up into 4 phases. I give you the good news, alhamdulillah, because the Eman Channel viewers actually helped with that first phase of that project. I'll give you the good news that last month, alhamdulillah, it was completed. And we've raised the money for phase 2, and that work has begun, alhamdulillah. Where we're at now is a very special part of the project. The project is special, it's my life's honor. We're now onto the front rows of the masjid itself. This is the place where we know and believe that the Prophet ﷺ led the other prophets in prayer. All 124,000 of them. There's, the likes of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. He says something remarkable. He says, there's not a shibr, a handspan of that space which hasn't had a Nabi Qam, a prophet has stood there, or Sajada alayhi, or did sajda there, or Malak Qam, or an angel stood there. It's real estate on planet Earth like no other. It has a uniqueness and it's a place of sins being forgiven. So for us, it's an incredible opportunity now. We moved to the front of the masjid, which is heavily used. And I just want to explain something here, because people might say, well, is there a need for that? The reality is we already know what the state of the play is in Palestine. The masjid itself is very different from the 2 other harams. Those of us who have been on Hajj and Umrah, you have this incredible state-of-the-art technology, as well as the build. It is incredible in Makkah and Medina. It's incredible. The Saudi Arabian government have done amazing investment into the 2 harams. You don't see that in Masjid Al-Aqsa Mubarak. The masjid is in need of repair. But what I would say is, rather than the masjid is in need, I'd rather say we're in need of Masjid Al-Aqsa. So that's how I see it.
I think also it's more about, if you first you get the reward of the prayer, that if you can't make it, so lighting and everything else.
Sure.
But also what you said about the value of that place in terms of who was there and everything else.
Sure.
It elevates it much more.
It's amazing. And, when you consider the lighting and electricity have not been changed since the mid-80s. So what, nearly 35 years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes people say, sorry to move it on a little bit. Sometimes people say, yeah, but look, what's the point of doing it? They come and do this. It's like, come on, isn't it a waste of money? Isn't it a waste of time? I mean, how would you respond to something like that?
I respond to that is what I learned from my teachers. They say, "Azimu ma'azam Allah." You should consider great what Allah considered great. It's so great that there is, and this is a known fact in the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only ever mentioned 2 masjids in the whole of the Quran by name. Others are alluded to, including Masjid Quba is alluded to. But when he said in the ayah, chapter 17 of the Quran, the opening ayah, he said, "Glory be to the one who took his servant by night from Masjid al-Haram, the sacred masjid in Makkah, to Masjid al-Aqsa, alladhi barakna hawla, the likes of which we have blessed its precincts." Palestine, and by extension Sham, is blessed because of the presence of Masjid al-Aqsa at the center of it. And that's why Palestine remains incredibly important to us. This is one of what they call the Sha'a'irullah, one of the signs of God on planet Earth, the presence of Masjid al-Aqsa al-Mubarak. So for us, as alhamdulillah Muslims living in the West, speaking English, who aren't from those lands, to connect so strongly with that hadith and be able to, because look, I'll be honest with you, if I went to Makkah, Medina and said, I'd like to help with some of the renovation works here,
You won't get a look in. Impossible.
Yeah.
The most you can do, I've been there a few times, you can donate a chair as a waqf and a mushaf. You can give a copy of Quran.
Yeah.
If you said, but I'd like to also pay for the lighting, or can I help with that, the prayer mat?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, they say, Alhamdulillah, it's all good. Thank you for your intention, but no chance.
Yeah.
Here, which is amazing. And again, this is وَذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِي مَن يَشَاءُ. And this is a favor from Allah that He gives to whomever He wills. Because I've often wondered, why Muslim Hands? Why am I or others, Eman Channel viewers, why are we involved in this? What I've always been reminded, because I see myself as a big sinner, how can I be involved in this? The answer I hear back is, it's not your choice anyway. There's an ayah of Quran which makes it categorically clear. Allah says, وَرَبُّكَ يَخْلُقْ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيرَةُ. And your Lord is the one, He creates everything He wants, and then He selects. He prefers some over others. And it says, مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيرَةُ. They don't have a choice in that selection. It's Allah's selection. And what I found about this appeal...
That's the blessing we should embrace with both hands.
Absolutely. It's very different from all the other appeals we've done. You actually really see a divine selection.
Yeah. No, I think, we're coming right to the end. I mean, one of the things, I think I've spoken to a lot of people who've embraced Islam in their mature years, if you like, 35, 40, 50. And I say, how comes Masjid Al-Aqsa, how comes Palestine means so much to you?
Sure.
And they can't explain it. And I mean, they try to explain it, but you feel like, they don't really know. And I think this is the blessing. As Muslims, it's just
But how many stories have we read in the Quran without realizing it are connected directly to Masjid Al-Aqsa? I'll give you just a couple. You've got Maryam alayhi salam living there. You've got Zakaria salam.
We're running out of time. But just before we finish,
it's connected.
I think that this is fantastic work that you brothers are doing, Muslim Hands and everything else.
Allah
I think everyone should, participate.
It's one of those once in a lifetime. Yeah, but this is it.
How can they get in touch?
Well, look, this is where I am. Alhamdulillah, the Eman Channel viewers already have given so much as well, and may Allah accept all of that. We're now into the one of the beautiful parts of the project. You just have to simply visit the website, muslimhands.org.uk. You'll see the updates of the feedback of what's happened so far. Even Google search Masjid Al-Aqsa lighting project, and inshallah, you'll be able to. But for me, I do see it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know if I'll live another 35 years to see any sort of lighting change. And Allah knows best. Will this be the same lighting system that will illuminate the prayer where Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is leading the salah and Isa alayhi salam enters Masjid Al-Aqsa?
You don't know.
We pray for that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. I'll have to stop.
Thank you so much.
And we've run out of time. So I'll end there. Inshallah, I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.